this happen because I was a student, and when we did practicals, we did in public hospitals, and I saw how people are treated in the public sector, and I dislike this. You want to get an ID, you want to get a permanent resident permit, you want to get papers because you're married to a South African man. The whole process, like the hella dang man, is just so strenuous and stressful. What is good, T gang? It is your girl T. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new to this channel, please don't be shy to smash the subscribe button down below. Turn on your post notifications to get notified every time I post a video, baby. Guys, today I am back with another lead banger video. So today I am going to be talking about the things that I dislike about living in South Africa. Now, disclaimer alert before we get down into the video, before we get in deep into the video, y'all. This video is not made to bash anyone. It's not made to bash South Africa. It's not made to bash South Africans. I live in South Africa. I'm a Zimbabwean living in South Africa, and I absolutely love living in South Africa. And I believe that the good about living in South Africa outweighs the bad. But obviously, in every area that you're going to live in the world, there's always going to be negatives and there's going to be positives about living in the area. So today I am going to be talking about the dislikes about living in South Africa. Now, this is a video that is way overdue because people were suggesting this video, but I was just a bit skeptical about shooting the video. But then here it is, guys. These are my dislikes about living in South Africa. So without any further ado, let's get down into the video. The first thing that I dislike about living in South Africa is the fact that you need connections to get to higher places. Well, not even higher places. Let's talk about getting a job, for example. Just getting a simple job in South Africa. You need quite serious connections. So there's a saying that they say, connections can get you into places where a degree can't take you. People usually say that saying, and it is absolutely true when it applies to living in South Africa. You can have that degree of yours, but if you don't have someone who's going to put in a good word for you to the people who are hiring or to someone that they know, then just forget about it, about getting a job. Your chances are low on getting the job compared to someone who has connections. So this thing, it is good for other people, it benefits other people, but it also disadvantages other people. So you find out that someone is even more qualified than the person that ends up being hired simply because they had connections and you didn't have connections. So when you're living in South Africa, you absolutely need connections to survive in this place. So you should know people to get to places in South Africa, and I really dislike this concept because it disadvantages other people who are not well connected. Then number two that I dislike is white privilege. Yes, white privilege. So white privilege, this is a term that actually originated in America. In the 1980s, they used this term white privilege. So now in South Africa, it is a legacy of apartheid, the white privilege. So when I say white privilege, I mean like now this is a concept that is directed to specific individuals. It's not like a collectible. It's like specific individuals. That's what we talk about when we talk about white privilege. Let's talk, for example, don't get me wrong, apartheid was long gone in South Africa. South Africa got its freedom or independence on the 27th of April 1994. So apartheid is no longer there, but the legacy of it still lives on, where we still see white privilege. Let's talk for example, in the workplace, you can see someone who is underqualified being a manager to someone who's more qualified than them. They get higher positions over people who are well deserving of the position simply because of their skin color. So the white privilege still persists to go on in South Africa. Point number three, I'm going to talk about the low standards of education in high school. Now, when I'm talking about the low standards of education, I'm not saying South African education is trash. I'm not saying it's rubbish. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about a specific concept that they instill in high school learners. So they say that a 30% is a pass mark when you're in high school. So you get 30%, you say, yay, I've passed, you're absolutely happy. And you realize that most high schools, they produce 100% pass rate. Now they're including this 30%. So 30% is a pass. Now you see a high school made 100% pass rate, but actually there are learners who got 30%. And they say it is a pass mark, right? You have passed. They tell you that you have passed. Okay, cool, you've passed high school. Now you have to go to university. They do not take anyone with a 30%. So I always had this question that I always ask myself, that okay, why do you instill the mentality that a 30% is a pass mark to high school learners when they won't be admitted in varsity with that 30%? Why don't we start from high school that okay, a 50% is a pass mark, and that is what makes sense. You get half, that is a pass. You get below half, that is a fail. But now this mentality of saying 30% is a mark, now is a pass mark. Now someone wants to go to university and they can't get into university simply because what? They didn't pass. University requires from 50% going up. That is what I mean when I say the low standards are in high school. I absolutely dislike that they instill that in high school, and I feel like it is not fair for you to do that to high school learners only for them not to be admitted in university. I think we need to instill in them when they're still young until they get admitted to university. They need to know that 30% is not a pass mark. The fourth thing I dislike about South Africa is that there is high crime rate and there is low persecution rates. So this statement basically means that criminals are roaming around the streets free, because more crime incidences are reported, but persecution rates are actually really low. So that means we are having criminals that are not being persecuted. We are having criminals who are getting away with the criminal activities that they are involved in. You understand? So we see that this is quite evident as the National Statutory Authority, the NPA, reported in a report in October 2019. Reported and said that persecution rate for very serious offenses is as low as 2%. This was in 2019. Persecution rate for very serious crimes is as low as 2%. This was a report, this was a study that was done, so it is quite evident that people are getting away with criminal activities. Now, the main crimes that people fear a lot in South Africa, it is called the trio crime. It is hijacking, car hijacking, robberies, and home robberies. So it was quite evident also in the study that we do have a very, very low persecution rate for these crimes. So it means we're having people who hijack cars roaming around. We have people who are robbing people, they are roaming around. So I really dislike that, and it makes me uncomfortable. Point number 5 is the services in South Africa, especially when it comes to government services, when it comes to public sector services. Let me talk about the public sector, the hospitals. The way the staff in the hospitals treat people is a bit inhumane, and I dislike this. So simply because you don't spend a lot of cash, a lot of rent, it means you deserve bad treatment. Is that what it means? No, it shouldn't be like that. We need to treat human beings the same. We need to treat human beings with dignity. In the public sector, they lack that thing of treating people with dignity. Simply because they're not paying thousands and thousands of rents, is that why they're treated that way? So the public sector really needs to do better. The staff really needs to do better. I'm not saying all the staff, I'm saying most of the staff, especially when it comes to these nurses, this profession. They have a bad history about treating people badly. People are scared to go to nurses. People are scared to go to nurses, and this is not even a joke. Most of them, they have the tendency of being rude, not speaking to people politely, and this is all done in the public sector. So I think the public sector really needs to change when it comes to the staff, and this is a thing that can be easily changed. It starts with one person. Treat people better. I've seen this happen because I was a student, and when we did practicals, we did in public hospitals, and I saw how people are treated in the public sector, and I dislike this. And when I talk about services, I'd also like to talk about the home affairs. It's the same thing. The staff is just some type of way, and I believe that people can do better. People can treat each other better. People can be kind to other human beings. The next point is, it is very difficult to get papers, to get documentation. I'm sure I've seen a lot of people end up going back home to their countries, or they end up migrating to overseas, which is the most common option for most foreign nationals who are in South Africa. They end up opting for going overseas because it's actually easier to acquire documentation overseas than in South Africa. In South Africa, it's very difficult to acquire documents. I do not understand why. The process is so strenuous. The process is so tiring. The process is so frustrating, and it is so hard, and they make it so hard for people to get documents, even for people who have been in the Republic for quite a long time. I saw a comment. I was watching a YouTuber, Tino Sparks. I was watching her video and I was going through her comments. I saw someone commented and said it's quite dodgy, it's quite fishy that someone was in South Africa for 15 years but didn't have documents. There's nothing dodgy about that. It is quite possible. Someone can be on a study visa. Like me, I came when I was very young. You can be on a study visa since primary school, high school, university. You are on a study visa. The moment you're done with your study visa, now you have to go and work. Now it's a challenge. You might not be able to get the documents that is required, and you opt to go back home. There's nothing fishy about that. It's just the way it is. It's difficult to acquire documents in South Africa as a foreigner. Whether you are trying to neutralize a kid, you have a child with a South African guy, you want the child to get documentation, it's difficult. You want to get an ID, you want to get a permanent resident permit, you want to get papers because you're married to a South African man. The whole process, like the hella dang man, is just so strenuous and stressful. So I dislike this about the country. The next point is the littering in the country. Now this I would like to say, I don't like to refer to say, okay, this specific nationality does this, that specific nationality does that. Wrong is wrong. Littering is wrong. So I'm saying this because I want to give a reference of Hillbrow. Hillbrow, to those who know, it is an inner residential area in Johannesburg. Johannesburg is in Gauteng. So this area is said to be accommodating about 80% of people who live there, who reside in that area are foreign nationals. 80%. That means 20% are South African people. So that place is very trashy. That place is very dirty. It never used to be like that. The days when I arrived in South Africa, it wasn't that dirty. It has become very, very dirty with years. It is so, you cringe when you're passing through Hillbrow. You cringe, you say, okay, all this littering, this place is so dirty. So I dislike that people litter. So the littering, we do have some dirty towns like Witbank in Mpumalanga, that the town is dirty. I hate littering and I dislike littering. I don't like people who drop papers anyway, because in South Africa it's actually a good country because they have bins. Like now and then there's a bin, now and then there's a bin. It's not like other countries where you see a bin now and then. There are bins everywhere, and I think a person is just so easy to take up your paper, throw it in the dustbin and go where you're going. Okay, and then the last point is traffic laws that are not abided by, and this has led so many people to lose a lot of family members. People have lost their lives by not abiding to the traffic laws. Can we abide by the traffic laws to save a life, to save your own life? Because I've seen, especially for taxi drivers, those people ignore all the stops. They ignore all the robots, the pedestrian crossings. People, they just ignore. Like, you know, as people, we just know, okay, this is a pedestrian crossing. I'm going to be crossing and cars are going to wait for me. Of course, you have to check first if there's no car that is already close by that cannot just brake when they get there. If you see a car is still far, they know that there's a pedestrian crossing. We know that we are free to cross. But there are some people who just don't listen. They see a pedestrian, they're not going to stop. Next thing you've bumped into someone. So traffic laws need to be abided by, because the consequences of not abiding by traffic laws is quite hefty. You're going to experience the consequences and they're not good. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share this video with your family and friends. You are free to leave your comments in the comment section. Positive comments, positive debates. I don't take negativity, positive debates only. And then please share this video with your family and friends. Share my channel with your family and friends, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.